Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da habiti fillah. The question was asked, Assalamu alaikum, akhi. I know it's mandatory to keep family ties, but how do I keep family ties if my family is big? I have many cousins, uncles, so it would be difficult to call or text everyone. Is it permissible to just text them by saying Assalamu alaikum, how are you? Or does it have to be a bit of a lengthy conversation? Please advise, Jazakumullah khairan. First of all, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for your good intentions to maintain the family ties. And those are one of the reasons, as we studied in Bulugh al-Maram, for those who are following the series that I'm posting, Bulugh al-Maram, the book of manners, and talk lengthy about family ties. I'm not sure if we've put it up yet, but it will be forthcoming bi'idhnillah ta'ala if it's not there. And basically, as long as we strive our best to make efforts to maintain the family ties. And Bin Uthaymeen mentions a big fight when he talks about bitter walidain and silat al-arham. And he mentions that, or perhaps it was Bin Baz, rahimahumullah jami'an, that the maintaining the family ties, he was explaining one of the ahadith in the chapter in Bulugh al-Maram in Bab Silata, Bab Bir Walidain, or Bab al-Bir Wasila. And so it's the chapter of kindness and maintaining the ties of kinship. And so he mentions that in accordance with one of the ahadith in that chapter, that there are those who maintain those ties, and this is kifaya, this is sufficient. Then there are those who go beyond, and that going beyond meaning that, for example, when you have negative relations with your family, that sometimes some people, they have people who cut them off, or people who are evil family members, plain and simple, or family members that are into sinfulness, or whatever the case may be. But the point is that you, being one of the ones striving to try to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you make the efforts, that even when they try to cut the ties, you try to maintain them. Now, that doesn't mean making a hardship upon yourself, and I do understand that when you have big ties. Prioritizing, making sure bitter walidain is first and foremost and is the strongest. Keep those ties with your parents, your mother and your father, if they are living, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon them if they're not living. And also your aunts, and especially your aunts and your uncles, as best as you can, and your grandparents. But first and foremost, the priority, the bitter walidain, and that's why it says bab al bitter, and then bitter wasila. Sila is for keeping the relations in general with is more general with near of kin, but the bitter, the piety, or the kindness and obedience is to walidain, especially the mother. So very, very important to keep those strong ties. Talk to those grandmothers if you have them. Talk to, just whenever you can. Not to make it a stressful thing, not to make it a difficult thing. Strive as much as you are able. And at least, and that means a lot to the elders a lot of times, if you just drop a line, if it's once a week, if it's once a month, it depends on the relationship you have. But the main thing is to not cutting the ties is sinful. And especially when it comes to the walidain, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, the parents, cutting the ties with the parents, and disobedience to the parents. This is aquqa walidain. It's one of the major sins, and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah subhanahu wa taala talks about it along with shirk. He mentions that, not meaning that it's as severe as shirk, no, but that it is as serious, and it's one of the major sins along with shirk. And just the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it along with shirk shows that it's a very serious thing. So very important to strive. Your effort is first and foremost, keep good ties and obedience with the parents. Secondly, those other near of kin, uh, do your best, cousins and so on and so forth. This is great if you can call them, if you have a lot, once a year, 6 months, whatever. Because especially if you have a huge family, it depends on the size of your family. But those that nuclear that the nucleus, the family nuclear unit, I believe they call it, or the main unit. If you have brothers and sisters, try to occasionally keep some ties, but especially those elders and especially the parents. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says في كتاب الكريم وقضى ربك لا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and your Lord has commanded you to worship none except Him alone, and to parents be righteous. And the righteousness that includes all the piety, and includes all the obedience to your parents, and it includes all good deeds and maintaining the ties of kinship and not disrespecting them in any way. So strive your best, whether your parents are Muslim or non-Muslim, and keep those ties. And we ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.